Hi, this video is to teach the grammar for the past continuous. It's a very important tense. Now this picture might help you to understand. What do we have in this picture? We have a police officer talking to a lady, and they are in the road because there are cars behind them. So maybe this lady was in a car accident and the police officer wants to know what happened. So we might see this sentence: I was driving home when the car hit me. I was driving home when the car hit me. Do you understand this sentence? We have two things happening in this sentence: was driving and hit. This was driving is past continuous and hit is past simple. So why do we use past continuous? Well, let's look at this timeline. We have two things happening. They're in the past, but the driving is something that happens over a long time. And then the car hit and it stopped the driving. So this is one of the ways we use past continuous. It is for a long action and then another action happens the same time and stops it. The car hitting stopped her driving home. Now she's talking to the police officer. So this is one of the main uses of past continuous. Two actions together. Another one, if you look down here, I was driving home at 6 p.m. This is when we give the time that something is happening. So we're saying at 6 p.m. or 6 o'clock, I was driving home. It's an action at that time. And then another way of using the past continuous is the background to a story. The sun was shining and I was wearing my glasses. Now those two things happened together, but one didn't stop the other, and it just describes the things that are happening at the start of a story. So, how do we form the past continuous? So we have I was driving. This is subject, was, and the verb ing. I was driving. If we change it to you, we change were. You were driving. And he is was and we is were. For the negative, we put not. I wasn't driving home at 6 p.m. And the same for you, you weren't driving home at 6 p.m. We put the not after was. For the questions, like in other tenses, we swap the subject with the auxiliary. So we move you after. So we have when were you driving home? And of course we change it for he or I, or when was I driving home? Another important thing is time words. So in this one we have when. I was driving home when the car hit me. But if you change it round, you can also use the words while and as. So the car hit me while I was driving home. The car hit me as I was driving home. You put those words before the past continuous, but when you can use before or after. Then we also have state verbs. Now you might have seen these before, but there are some verbs that we don't use in continuous. And these are things that are not actions, like know, like, want, need. These kind of words are not used in continuous. So you cannot say, I was knowing all the test answers in the test. You can't use this. Okay, so this is the form and the use of the past continuous. Let's now look at pronunciation. So you need to be able to say it correctly. I was driving home at 6 p.m. So was is pronounced like this, WZ, and driving, we don't say the G very strongly. It's not driving, it's driving. And also, we don't pronounce the was very strongly, it's quite soft. the driving gets the strong. So listen again. I was driving home at 6 p.m. For you, it's very similar. You were driving home at 6 p.m. So the were is soft. The negative, listen to this. I wasn't driving home at 6 p.m. I wasn't driving home at 6 p.m. First, you need to say wasn't. That's how we pronounce this word. But also, it's a stronger sound on the was than it is in the positive. In the positive, it's soft, but in the negative, I wasn't driving home at 6 p.m. And then for you, listen carefully, you weren't driving home at 6 p.m. So weren't is one sound only. Some people think it's two, weren't, but it's not, it's one. You weren't driving home at 6 p.m. Okay, so that's the pronunciation. Let's look at some examples now just to take it to the next level to see if you can understand these kind of things. The policeman says, tell me what happened. The driver says, I was driving home with my sister. We were talking about our plans for dinner. It was not raining. The other car was going very fast behind me on the road. I was changing lanes to give him space. The other car crashed into the back of my car. So here we have lots of examples of the past continuous. Was driving, talking, raining, going, changing. These are all actions in the past, and they tell exactly what is happening until the short thing happened and the car crashed into the back of my car. So this is how you can use the past continuous in more difficult language. Let's now look at common errors. So where do people go wrong with the past continuous? Here is the correct, I was driving home at 6 p.m. It's nice and simple. But here we have some examples of wrong uses of the past continuous. Just pause the video if you want, take a look and think, why are these wrong? Okay, let's go through them. I driving home when the other car hit me. What's the problem here? Well, it's missing was. I was driving home when the other car hit me. I was drive home at 6 p.m. No, we forgot ing. I was driving home at 6 p.m. Next one. I was driving home at 6 p.m. So this sounds correct. But when you read it, we have a problem with spelling. Don't forget, when we have a vowel at the end, we take it off and put ing. So when we have the E at the end, same with live and have, we take the E off and put ing. I was driving home. We was driving home at 6 p.m. The problem is it's not was with we change it to were. We were driving home at 6 p.m. When you were driving home. This sounds okay to some people, but you remember you need to swap the you with the were for the question. When were you driving home? Next one. I drove home when the car hit me. Now actually this is not incorrect. This is okay, but it does have a different meaning. I drove home when the car hit me means the drive was after the car hit. So maybe you were parked in a car park, the car hit you, and then you drove home. Next one. I was liking the car. No, for like, it's like a state verb. We don't use it in past continuous, we use liked. I liked the car. And then a strange one that some people don't always see. I was seeing the other car in my mirror. Now the correct answer here is I saw the other car in my mirror. The problem here is the word see. It's not a state verb, it's a bit of an action, but it's something you don't think about. You don't think, oh, I will see something. It just happens when you look, when you open your eyes and look, you see something. So we don't use it for that when it's involuntary. Okay, so this was the past continuous. I was driving home at 6 p.m.